Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another YouTube video from Legacy Collectibles. This is going to be a special edition because I have a special guest, happens to be my next door neighbor, Joe Sacchetti. I'm going to say a little bit more about him in a minute, but let me tell you how we got to this point. As most of you know, I said I was retiring from Legacy and looking for other things to get involved in. I've stayed involved with Legacy, but my wife and I also said we want to travel. And one of the things that I've always wanted to do, never seem to have time, is to visit some of the battlefields of Europe and eventually to the Pacific. But for right now, I've always wanted to go to Normandy. So I was actually, Joe, I was with your wife, Dominica. We played pickleball as couples, and we were going to something with pickleball. And Dominica said, "Oh, did I tell you Joe and I are going to start a new business, Highroads Traveler?" And I'm like, "What's that about?" So I asked a few questions, and she mentioned, well, with a military background, he really likes the military history, loves to travel. You're going to say how many countries you've been in. I want to say 120, but about right?
That's a good guess, 160.
160. Speaks 27 languages. No.
Half a dozen.
Half a dozen languages. Anyway, he is a world traveler and wanted to do these tours, and I wanted to go on a tour. And you know me, I'm always looking for, hey, here's an opportunity. So Legacy Collectibles is not leading this tour. We are helping to feed it. It's going to be your tour. We're going to come along. I'm going to go on the first one. My wife and I are going to go on the first one. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But this is not a Legacy event, but we are going to refer people to this tour and hopefully many more tours down the road. So Joe Sacchetti in the studio, first time this is a studio, in the studio with me today. Joe is an author, Army Ranger. He's got he's got this shirt and also 82nd Airborne.
That's right. Very good.
Paratrooper. So who is better suited to take us on a tour of Normandy, Pointe du Hoc, going into Paris, actually the Channel Islands? You never parachuted into the Channel Islands, but we do have a story with the Channel Islands. Actually, one of our subscribers to this channel contacted me about a gun. We got talking, and he said, I'm the curator of the museum on the Channel Islands, so we're going to be going there. You'll talk a little bit about that, but why don't I stop talking and find out a little bit about, just tell us an overview of this trip and why somebody might want to go on a trip like this.
All right.
Not, by the way, I'm not saying you have to come on our trip. We're only taking 18 people, so we can't take everybody along. But why is it important to do this?
Now, I think everybody should visit Normandy Beach and that area one time in their life, especially if you're a fan of valor, courage, freedom, all the good things that make a U.S. a good country. But I first want to say, as an Army Ranger, I'm very excited to be here with all this vintage WW2 armament behind me. I love it here. But you're right. I was lucky enough to command a unit, Ranger unit in the 82nd during Iraq, a couple of tours there, and I realized that people really want to hear about the feats of the Army Rangers and paratroopers, all the kind of great folks. So I wrote a book a couple of years ago, and right after that, started this tour company. And to go to where places? The places in the world that make history come alive. And there's no better place in the world than Normandy, France, and that area, especially for your folks, because they want to see where the U.S. saved the world. And the people of France are lovely people. The people of Brittany and that area and Normandy, they're especially awesome because they remember not too long ago that our boys landed on their shores and jumped in from above and saved them and their people. So they really love that. Keep in mind, this year is the 80th anniversary of D-Day. So 1944 to 2024, the big 80th anniversary celebrations gearing up. I just came back from there a couple of weeks ago, and it's a great place to be. So I'll tell you what everyone in their lifetime ought to do. And this is what we're going to do when we go over there. We're going to walk along Omaha Beach and Utah Beach. And like you said, from the eyes of a ranger who scaled the cliffs at Pointe du Hoc. And we're going to arrive not by a parachute, but probably by a nice, comfortable van into St. Mary Glace, the first town that was liberated by the United States, by the 82nd. And, you know, there's a famous scene in the movie The Longest Day where the paratrooper is hanging from the church steeple. So you have Utah Beach and Omaha Beach and Arromanches, Pegasus Bridge, and then Brecourt Manor, where the band of brothers had their first battle, where they secured the guns. Everybody has seen that episode.
You're going to take us there?
We're going to Brecourt Manor. We're going to go to St. Mary Glace. We're going to go to Bayou.
Wait, is the paratrooper still up there?
He is now. Now, he himself got tired after a while. He was actually up there for 2 hours. He had to play dead, was briefly captured and then liberated. But it's such a great story that there is a lifelike image of him. There's a
Okay.
I don't want to call him a dummy because paratroopers aren't dummies. But there's a paratrooper hanging off the steeple that everyone can see. The 82nd Airborne Museum is also there, which is really amazing. Now, if you can go to Normandy at one time in your life, you want to go to and stay in Bayou. Bayou is a town that was largely unblemished by World War II bombing because we captured it so quickly, right after St. Mary Glace. So it's still intact. There's a great cathedral that has a Bayou tapestry from the 1100s. But it's just full of great World War II memorabilia. So for your folks, they're gonna love that. That covers a lot of Normandy, France.
Right. Okay. And you're hosting this and taking people through and telling the narrative behind it. I know for me and for those of you who are travelers, first of all, a lot of young people watch this YouTube channel. They're probably not at a stage in life where they want to be premier everything. They like to stay in a youth hostel. I know my kids, when they travel, they want to go dirt cheap. But I've worked hard all my life, and now is the time to enjoy it. It's either that or I leave my money to my kids, and they'll go to Vegas with it. So I want to travel, and I want everything to be taken care of. And I know some of you out there, that's not you. But I want to get up in the morning, not worry about when does the van come, where do we get it, what happens if we miss the van. I like everything taken care of, which is why I like a tour like this.
How does this sound to you, Tom? We'll go to the most amazing places and sites in the world. We're going to come back to 5-star luxury in our hotels and eat in phenomenal restaurants, Michelin stars, and every need taken care of. And why are we building that tour? Because we have wives.
Yeah, I do want to ask you, I'm bringing my wife, and I guarantee she does not want to talk about guns all day. I probably would, along with the people that go. No, so seriously, I need to talk my wife into this, so help me out.
Every human alive is interested in living history. And all of the events and the sites we see in and around Normandy are absolutely fascinating to ladies as well. But to compromise, we're going to stay in wonderful towns like Bayou that have high-end shopping, great hotels.
Shopping?
Beautiful meals. Lots of shopping. Because every place we go, we'll be in Paris for 4 nights and Normandy for 4 nights and the Channel Islands for 3 nights. And each of those are carefully curated to be places that have a wonderful amount of things to do. Oh, and by the way, each hotel has a spa. If one of the ladies decides she doesn't want to get up and do something in that morning, she can just relax by the spa or the pool all day long. So you're right. There is something for everyone on the trip.
Wine tasting?
Wine tasting, yes. Well, that region is particularly known for apples. So they have apple ciders and apple brandy called Calvados, which is very famous. They have their own beer, Normandy cheese, and wine. So with all of that, you really can't go wrong. We have a lot of food and wine and spirits tastings.
Okay, so France, Paris, and this trip actually has an option of spending extra days in Paris. You can talk about that later, but I want to hit on the Channel Islands because I first became aware that the Channel Islands were taken by the Germans. Actually, it's closer to France than it is to England.
That's right.
But I think there was a miniseries on Netflix that was called Island at War. There were some dirty Nazis in it, and the Brits resisted. Not a lot. I mean, they weren't like shooting guards and things like that, but they did resist where they could. And by the way, that's the one thing about this trip that interested my wife the most, other than Paris. she's always wanted to go to the Channel Islands. She watched that series with us, and she said, what a beautiful place. So we're going to the Channel Islands, and not many people do that.
We sure are. In fact, there is no tour that currently goes to Normandy and the Channel Islands together. So
how do we get there?
Congratulations. Legacy Collectibles is offering this tour. We get there by ferry. We're going to take a ferry across the channel, just like the soldiers on D-Day did.
Oh, wow.
But we expect a little fairer weather.
On a Higgins boat?
It is a very nice ferry. I was on it last month. It's large enough, folks at home, that there's an entire deck of cars that also go over there. So I barely felt a bump. But it is pretty cool to be in the English Channel. And you're right. It's only 25 miles from the French coast. But it is a British property. It's the only piece of Great Britain that was occupied by the Germans for 5 years, from 1940 to 1945. And I will say this, the people of the Channel Islands are amazing. The moment that the Germans left there in 1945, they took all of the battlements and tunnels and paraphernalia and touched it up, painted it, turned it into a memorial, and today it's a living piece of memory. It looks like the Germans just left.
Okay, and a shout out to Damien. You actually met him?
Yes, Damien Horn, one of your...
yeah, he wrote to me and asked me to look up a gun for him, and yes. We did a video, and it was mystery solved. It was about a Walther PP, and I think we said mystery solved. If you want to look that up, he was trying to identify the inscription on that gun, and we were able to find exactly what was on that gun.
Damon is a curator of a very cool museum, the Channel Islands Military Museum, which we will definitely see. He also placed it in one of the German bunkers. And so he's holed it out, made it into a very hospitable place. It looks out over the beach, and also a great selection because it sits on the west end of the island with an amazing view. In fact, for the folks that go on this tour, we're going to stay out there on the beach at a hotel that overlooks the famous Le Corbusier Lighthouse and 3,000 miles of Atlantic Ocean.
Okay. And isn't there a castle off the coast that you walk to through the water? Yes,
there's a couple of places when you talk about walking through the water because the tides are famously high in that part of France. In Saint Malo, the town we're going to go to, but Mont Saint Michel is a UNESCO heritage site. It's a beautiful castle, a cathedral that sits out about 300 meters in the water. At low tide, we can walk. We'll plan to walk across. And if it's high tide, there's a nice bridge they left for us.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's a great place to visit, and of course the ladies are going to love that. It's right between where we'll leave Normandy and when we get to the ferry. In fact, the town we're going to go to, Saint Malo, is also the feature of a Netflix show called All the Light We Cannot See.
Oh, yes.
It's a true story, and it has to do with somewhat around the tides that will rise as much as 12 feet in the daytime from day to night. Also, in the Channel Islands nearby, there's a lighthouse that we'll get out to, Le Corbusier. We have to time it right. Okay. We don't get stuck out there. Because the tide,
and that's why I personally want a hosted trip because when my wife and I do it on the cheap, and then say you should have been here yesterday because it was the only time that you could have done this. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about Paris, and then we're going to jump into future ideas.
Okay,
Paris.
We're going to do 8 days.
There's extra days in Paris. What else is there to do in Paris?
Right. Well, we're going to start and end our trip in Paris, but at the beginning, we're really just meeting there, which is very convenient because people will be flying there, rather than tell people, hey, you have to meet us in Normandy. Let's just pick everyone up in Paris and take them out. But we'll arrive in Paris for one night, and then some folks will go home, or they can stay for the 3 extra nights. What will we do? Wow. Well, whether you're a first-timer or a seasoned traveler, you may want to see the Arc de Triomphe and the Louvre and the Eiffel Tower. But specifically, we want to take our folks to the Hotel Les Invalides, and that is a museum within a museum. There's 6 museums full of armaments and the Golden Dome, which houses the tomb of Napoleon.
Do you think they have any Lugers?
I was there recently. They have an amazing collection of swords. And as we move into tanks, battlements, and rifles and pistols, all of which were used by the French. Louis XIV was a real fan of his servicemen. And he originally built this hotel as a hospital for the invalids,
Okay.
Les Invalides. And so now it's this unbelievable museum. It's going to be in the 7th arrondissement, which is the best place to stay in Paris. And guess what? That's where we're going to stay.
Okay, well, good. All right, there's a lot to cover. There's a lot there, and again, I'm not pushing this trip on everybody, but I am pushing get out and see some of these places, especially honor the vets who sacrifice so much for us. And that leads me to the future, because once we've done that, you're going to do a lot more traveling than I'm going to do. I can't go on every trip. I'm going on the first one, but you've talked about other trips in Europe.
That's right. Look for tours that, if you're a World War II enthusiast, starts with this one, which is landing at D-Day, the D-Day beaches, and the immediate aftermath. And then a tour that goes up through Market Garden and the Battle of the Bulge. And guess what? That takes us to Amsterdam or Holland and Belgium. And of course, there's an amazing amount of things for the ladies to do there as well. So every tour is going to look about the same, about 8 to 11 days, staying in 5-star luxury and having Michelin star meals, but also taste, touch, and see the living history. Then, of course, you have the an Italy tour that can start in southern Italy or Sicily, work its way up through Anzio, Cassino, and all the way up to Venice to capture some of the amazing events of World War II.
Yeah, it sounds like a dream come true. Now, I mentioned this to you, and you embraced it. But I just want to say to our listeners, because a lot of people have responded to this, the Vietnam vets, a lot of them are in their 70s now. And I think we really need to do a tour of Vietnam where the vets and their spouses can go back and say, this is where I was stationed, this is where we were, there's the Ho Chi Minh Trail. And that's something that interests you as well.
It sure does. I was there just a year ago, and I have a special place in my heart for Vietnam vets, because in the military, every generation learns from the war that immediately preceded it. So all of the instructors that I had when I would eventually be in the Persian Gulf, all were Vietnam vets. So my first commanders and so forth. So yeah, it's a wonderful place. Vietnam is now the place to visit. Look out for a tour, and if your folks say that they want to do that, we can bump that up sooner than later. But Saigon, now Ho Chi Minh City, is an amazing place. It makes it very accessible to get on the Mekong Delta, sail to float down it. This time not in peril. Okay, and then we can go up the Ho Chi Minh Trail, and we can stop at places like Hue and Da Nang and Cam Ranh Bay. And I think that will be an absolutely remarkable trip.
I hear they love Americans now.
They do. They love Americans. They're very, very democratic and unsocialized, and prefer our company to the Chinese, if that's okay to say, on the podcast. And just like the French, that some people think have a short fuse with Americans, not the French that are out in Normandy. Okay. They absolutely love Americans and Brits, because they remember they have aunts, uncles, and grandparents that were liberated.
Speaking of the French and the Brits, we have subscribers who maybe can't go on this tour, and we haven't worked out the details, but we've talked about maybe having a dinner in a hotel one night. And if you're a subscriber to our channel, I hear from you guys in England, Germany, and certainly France. If you can get there and join us for dinner one night, we'll try to make that happen.
That's right. We've got 4 great nights in Paris. On the 3rd night, which is a bit of a free day, we'll have a Legacy Collectibles dinner, and we can almost throw out a date right now. We can say it's going to be October 26th.
Oh,
if it changes, we'll let you know. But I just think that everybody in their lives should get out and experience what it felt like to land on the beach, to have that valor and the courage. All you have to do is stand at 16:30, that's 4:30 civilian time, in the American cemetery that overlooks Omaha Beach, and stand there in silence for the playing of taps. And you will be overcome by courage, valor, and a somber mood that makes you proud to be an American.
Let's talk about what's the next step. They need to, because a lot of people say, oh, I'd love to go, but that doesn't lock you in. So what's the next step if they want to go?
Okay, we're going to email you back, right? and let you know that they're interested. We're going to send out a brochure. Then we're going to lock in with a down payment of $1,000, and then we'll pay half of it in about another 45 days, and 60 days out, we'll lock in with the rest, and you are set. In fact, you just reminded me that I've got a copy of this book for you. And it's nice here. Would you like me to sign this?
I would love that.
I'm going to sign it for you. And I thought to myself while we were sitting here that for the 20 folks, and that's the only downside of this trip, we can only take 20. Okay. You and Lori are going. So
I said 18, so now we're 18. We're up by 2. Yeah, Lori and I are going. So.
I will also sign a copy of Gut, Smarts, and Love for everybody that comes on the trip. But yeah, they want to let you know soon, and then we'll stay in touch with email, and we'll take care of all the logistics and line up a lifetime unforgettable trip. And by the way, if for the future trips, if folks want to say, hey, I want to go here and there,
right,
we'll plug it in sooner than
this trip is October. If October doesn't work for you, you can go ahead and put your name in for a wait list on other trips. So there is a link below. If you look at the description, the Legacy website, a link to information to us. But also for Joe's email, you can contact him there, Highroads Traveler. I like taking the high road. Good. So anyway, you can get information, email us, we'll get back to you, and we'd love to see you on one of our trips.
Tom, thanks for having me in the studio.
Oh, thank you.
I look forward to seeing your friends.
Oh, absolutely. Before that, on the pickleball court. Thanks.